InObscuria!
Welcome back, my friends, to the InObscuria podcast, a podcast where we exhume obscure rock and punk and metal and put them in one of three categories: the lost, the forgotten, or the should-have-beens. My name is Kevin Williams, and I'm joined today by Mr. Robert Harrison.
Are we talking in monotone for...
That was my college DJ voice.
You're listening to WRSG student run. Oh, God, there's one DJ in particular at Album 88, which is Georgia State University. And she, bless her heart, she's probably 20 years old. And she takes that to the extreme where it sounds like she's about to die. Like she's so out of breath when she talks that I have to turn up the radio in between the songs. And I'm like, what about that do you think is cool? To put so little effort into talking that we can't understand you.
Well, the funny thing is this never changed.
No,
it was that way when we were in college.
25,
That's exactly how they sounded.
18 years ago when we were in college.
18 years ago, huh?
Okay, something like that.
Is that right?
Math. Yeah, I don't know math.
I don't think your math is correct there.
A little bit. Maybe I rounded up to 20 years ago when we were... That was a band. We were in a band 20 years ago.
Math is
That's
off.
Right. But yeah.
Yes, for 40 years, people on college radio has sounded like this.
Because it's not cool to actually take a breath and enunciate.
At least where we're from.
Yeah.
But anyway, how are you doing, Robert?
It's a bittersweet day at the firehouse here. The sweet is that I'm having a wedding here Friday, which means
you get married.
I get paid. No, I'm just the kind of wedding where I make money.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
If I was getting married, you lose a lot of money doing that. I've heard.
But you gain so much, Robert.
No, I don't need the cow. I don't need to buy it. I get the stuff for free. So yeah, so the sweet part is I get an envelope full of cash after the wedding's over. But the bitter part is they're having the ceremony right where I keep the hot tub.
Oh,
so I've got to go
man.
deflate the hot tub and pack it up.
You just need to move it up either to the top of the roof, which you've done before.
Yeah, that's still bitter that I got to drag it up 2 flights of stairs.
Or I say we put it inside Moose. We put it inside the van, make it work, and that's how we travel to Nashville
6 feet across.
In the summer.
Let me go get my tape measure.
We can make it work.
I think we can make it work.
We can be cruising all the way to Nashville, sloshing around
and
inside the tub. And then when we get there, we just open the doors.
And let it all spill out.
No, we just hang out. That's what people just walk up and hang out with us.
We got holes in the floor. That thing, we're not worried about
Hop in the hot tub.
I actually have to have a little drain hole when it rains because it leaks so much water inside that it has to escape out somewhere. So yeah, our van has drain holes inside the van.
Well, after you get sloshed, go listen to the Pod of Thunder, Growing Up Rock, Slamfest Podcast, Decibel Geek, Podcast Rock City, Cobras and Fire, Rock Strikes 10, Metal Up Your Podcast, The Dummy Room, Kiss Street Science Theater, State of Amorica, Potter Than Hell, Podcast, The Kiss Room, I Love It Loudcast, Sages of Rock, The Synaptic Empire, and Monty's Rockcast. Come visit us at InObscuria.com. Like us, share us, recommend us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Leave us a review, Apple Podcast, or Podchaser. Tell us how awesome we are.
Oh, yeah, we love to hear that.
I've actually submitted 5 reviews over the last week, and they've just been amazing.
My head's getting a little large because of all the glowing praise I've received from somebody, anonymous person on the internet, maybe you. Well, guess who I heard on terrestrial radio this week many times.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
There is terrestrial radio. Our local rock station here in Atlanta played, finally, Blackberry Smoke. So our friends in Blackberry Smoke have been around for 10, 15 years. 20 maybe. A long time. They've been selling out large venues for a long time. Over 10 years, they've been selling out some large joints here. And finally, they're just now getting a song played on the radio. It's called See Georgia. It's on their new album. It's really good. It's rocking. It's Southern rock. They've moved the needle just a little bit away from the country sound. And it's...
Yeah, they're always somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle.
More rocking.
A little bit of Black Crowes thrown there, a little bit of Driving and Crying, which check both of those boxes for me. But the content of the song is basically the state state of Georgia's version of Sweet Home Alabama. So, Georgia, we're in the South. We get looked down upon for good reasons a lot of time. But at the same time, we also like to go, you know what, F you for, looking down your nose at us. And that's what the song's all about is, F you for looking down at us. We don't care.
So do we think it's going to be an anthem?
I think so. I think the state of Georgia, I think they wrote this knowing that the state of Georgia is going to stroke them a pretty big check to use that in advertisements.
Nice.
In front of college football, the University of Georgia. This is going to get played probably in front of, before each game, number of times. So, yeah, good for them. Our friend Brandon, all the guys in the band, congratulations. They don't need our congratulations, but still, it's pretty cool. Finally, they got some recognition they deserve.
It's great. And they've really, over the years, they've done really well for themselves. But yeah, this was kind of the last hurdle is I think people early on, at least when Brandon joined early on, they were lumped more in the country.
Mm-hmm. Alt country or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it, but they were considered more country, and they, I believe they always thought more of themselves as being a rock band.
Yeah.
And so now I think they're finally getting more of that recognition of just being a kick-ass rock band that happens to be Southern. So
they put a little Southern flavoring in all their music, which is great. I love it. Any band of that stature that lets us hang out backstage and eat some of their food and have free drinks before the show, I'm going to support them.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, but Brandon still, I grew up with Brandon in my hometown. We've been friends since we were 5 years old, and he was also I influenced him to move to Atlanta because the band plays some amazing keys, and I thought there are just not that many people that I know of in Atlanta at the time that played keys, so I thought he'd get an easy gig. And of course, I coerced him into being in the band with us.
The gig that we got him was with us.
with us.
Most important gig.
Which worked really well for a while. So Big Jack Pneumatic featured the two of us with Kent Iberly on drums and Brandon on keyboards.
And that's when we started firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And that was the most fun I had.
Great band. And then Kent and Brandon would go on to do, we've talked about Meddlesome Monday before, which is a live band karaoke.
Heavy metal karaoke.
And from that connection, I believe, is where Brandon met the guys in Blackberry Smoke, and that's where he got picked up. And he's been touring with them for, God, it has to be 10, 12 years now.
Yeah, ever since then.
Really happy for them. And I've already pre-ordered that new album. I always get their albums on pre-order because they have these really great vinyls, like these nice splatter patterns and things that are short run and collectible. So yeah, really cool. Good for them. All right. Well,
it's been a dreary day.
It's been a really dreary day.
Rainy, cold.
I'm just kind of down.
Yeah, it really does affect your emotions.
Which is why I'm talking like a college DJ.
There's no energy.
But I did find something on YouTube that really illustrates how I feel, and I'd just like to play it now for you. So here you go.
From the makers of Tickle Me Elmo and Tickle Me Elmo Extreme comes this holiday season's hottest must-have toy. It's Tickle Me Emo.
Stop it. That hurts me.
Tickle Me Emo is the tortured, angst-ridden teen cousin of Elmo, and boy is he sad. But don't take our word for it. Squeeze his hand and let Tickle Me Emo tell you himself with one of 13 pre-recorded emo sayings.
If life is so fair, why do roses have thorns? There is no God. You hear me? No God.
Why don't he giggle and shake and stuff?
Oh, he will. Just pull his string.
Nobody understands what I'm going through, especially you.
Tickle Me Emo is just like a real emo kid. Super sensitive and oh so dramatic.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
I hate you too. You're not the only one with issues.
Be careful not to leave Tickle Me Emo alone for too long.
I hurt myself to feel alive.
Tickle Me Emo, available at Hot Topics everywhere.
At Hot Topics.
Hot Topics, God. I think I've been in one of those one time, like going with somebody. They're like, "Oh, let's go in there." And back when there were malls,
oh, that was a thing. Hot Topic.
And I'm much older than anybody needs to be to go in there. But we had Spencer's, which was Hot Topic.
Spencer's is still around,
ago.
I believe.
Is it?
Well, maybe not now.
But
maybe
it's the same
post-pandemic.
thing.
No.
It was all the weird, goofy, poppy stuff, T-shirts and things. But yeah, I was embarrassed to be in there, and I'm like, I just had to go. I was like, no, I'll be outside in the food court.
Yeah. So obviously today it's going to be episode 70. Sensitive demons.
70s.
Sensitive demons.
Oh, sensitive demons.
And if you'll notice, the word demon has emo in the middle. Emo.
Oh, emo.
Emo. So we are going to talk about emo today. I don't know if what immediately comes to mind, but probably what we just listened to from Mad TV.
Overly sensitive
high school kids with bad haircuts.
Really bad. They need to be shampooed.
I first heard the word way back in the mid-90s when I was getting into a band called Fugazi. Well, I think a lot of people know that band. But there were two bands that basically got together to form Fugazi, and those bands were considered emo bands, at least when I read about them in the 90s, but I didn't know what that meant. But I knew there was a band who put out one album called Embrace, who we've actually played on the show before in our Wild Card episode with Jeremy. And there was another band called Rites of Spring, who also only put out one album, and the lead singers from both of those bands got together and they formed Fugazi. So that's what I knew of emo, at least in the 90s. And then I didn't hear the term again until almost the end of that decade, when it was associated with some bands that I was starting to listen to by the names of Sunny Day Real Estate, The Promise Ring, and Braid. And to me, it was all punk, but they were starting to use that tag of emo. And Sunny Day Real Estate is the band that Nate Mendel, who is the Foo Fighters bass player, that's where he came from. So people may have heard of Sunny Day Real Estate, but unless you were listening to punk in that time, you probably don't know those bands, but those are all amazing bands and kind of considered the originators of the movement. By the 2000s, early 2000s, the term was adopted to the mainstream.
And that's when I heard about it. I'd not heard of it prior to that.
Right.
It was almost to the point where people were already making fun of it, and that's how I heard about it.
Yeah, so it's
not while it was happening.
It's much like hair bands when grunge came and took over where the hair bands were. Everybody started making fun of hair bands when a year ago they had probably just been wearing their Motley Crue t-shirt.
It happened very quickly.
It happened very quickly. And sort of the same thing here. So emo comes out and it's polarizing. So people are automatically making fun of it and making fun of the emo movement. But it was a kind of counterculture as well as a fashion and obviously music. So to me, the music is mostly punk, but we'll get into that. From a culture standpoint, I think it was polarizing for some folks. And it really wasn't that different than what people had been called before, that were called alternative or called goth. It's people that were maybe the kid who's not the popular kid, he's introverted, kind of depressed, maybe he's into cutting and things like that, or socially oppressed or just emotional. It's about the sensitive kid that really, I guess, they made part of this emo thing, and those are what they called emo kids. And then visually it was, again, similar to goth in the 80s and 90s. It was all about black hair and black nails and uber skinny kids for the most part, and skinny jeans. This is where the skinny jeans
You think I would have
from.
loved that, because I would have fit right in with that part of it.
Yeah, but you remember guy liner? That was a big thing. We even did it in the swear for a while. But guys wearing the eyeliner.
I just do that for Home Depot runs.
Exactly. Kind of the skater cut hair. Those are the cookie cutter emo.
Kent had
thing.
that.
Yeah,
Kent had the skater hair.
Yep. Studded belts.
I
was wearing
had that.
studded belts for
I had
a while.
that. Okay, so guilty.
Yep, but it was borrowed stuff basically. The emo look was borrowed from punk. It was borrowed from metal, and it was borrowed from goth.
A little
So it was really
smorgasbord
just,
of everything.
It was really just everything put together, but that was the thing. Now, sonically, mostly punk, a little heaviness of kind of metal and maybe even a little metalcore thrown in. Lots of start-stops, so had a little progressive element to it as well, which is probably why I really dug it and dig it. And vocally, I noticed that a lot of nasally vocals, so a lot of headspace singing. I don't know. Unlike goth, they had the baritone. That was kind of the thing with the goths. With the emo kids, it was all about the higher pitch vocals, and I don't know why, but that's kind of a thing. Tons of bands flooded the market in the early 2000s especially. They were categorized as emo, and there were all sorts of other variants of emo, one being one that we're not going to cover, which is Screamo. Not a big fan. I'm not a big metalcore guy, and I'm not a big Screamo guy.
About a 60-grit sandpaper to the back of my brain.
I like guys that can scream and girls that can scream, that I can actually get some sense of melody out of it. Screaming's great.
And it should be used for emphasis when it's the entire song. It's just like death metal. It's like, okay, I want to understand at least one or two lyrics here or there.
To me, when it's obvious that you can't sing at all,
and
you're screaming because that's all you can do, it's just not my thing.
It takes the fun out of it.
Screamo we will not cover today. We're going to cover the emo bands. And like I said, there was a big mainstream backlash almost as soon as the movement started. So it really went from late 90s to mid 2000s. Kind of short-lived, but a lot of these bands still are around. So I looked up one of these lists, and I looked up the Rolling Stone 40 greatest emo albums of all time. So starting at number 40. No, just kidding.
Let me go to beer.
Let's do the top 10. I'm going to run through them kind of quickly because what I think the cool kids at Rolling Stone did was they tried to be cool by putting in maybe bands that weren't the biggest bands, but the ones that they felt like had the most cred so that they themselves could get some cred. But you tell me if I'm wrong.
Written by millennials.
Yeah. Number 10, My Chemical Romance, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, 2004. This is their first album. This is not the one that got big or the one after that was even bigger or the one that was after that was bigger than this one. Number 9, Fall Out Boy, From Under the Cork Tree. This is the one that got them on the map. And man, has that band changed. They're a pop band now. I mean, poppy as pop can be. But they started off as an emo band. Number 8, a band that you and I saw. Great show. I'm talking about Jimmy Eat World, Bleed American, 2001. Great band. We saw them with Muse and Velvet Revolver.
And it's I know they're emo. It's hard for me to picture that because they're so positive in their lyrics a lot of time, and it's not down. They're almost trying to talk to the other bands and go, "Dude, you shouldn't be so depressed. Look, the world's great. You can do this." And they're trying to help them out, pep them up a little bit.
Well, here again, I mean, I love Jimmy Eat World, but the only reason they're on this list is because somebody said they were emo. If you ask me, I'd tell you they were power pop.
Power pop, all the way.
They were the new version of Cheap Trick to me.
And it was influence for me. That's what I wanted to play. Just upbeat rock music, no frills, just straight ahead rock music.
Now, number 7 and number 6, I've actually never heard. So why are they on this list? I don't know. Cap'n Jazz is number 7.
Nope.
American Football is number 6. Nope, never heard that one.
It's football.
Foosball. Number 5, yes, Braid, Frame and Canvas, 1998. So Braid is one of those original bands that just amazing. You should go check them out. A band that does not use the nasally vocals, by the way. Guy has an amazing voice. Number 4, Jawbreaker, Dear You. I know that's one of Jeremy's faves. 95 is when Dear You came out. The Promise Ringer, number 3, Nothing Feels Good from 97. You see what they're doing here?
Yeah.
Number 2, Rites of Spring from 1985. And number 1, Sunny Day Real Estate, Diary from 1994. So again, they were trying to get their cred by putting in the folks that they felt like
we know the cool
started
bands before they were cool.
Yeah, we knew these bands. This is where the movement started.
Yeah.
Now, you go Google emo, you're going to get something different. Google emo, and you will get My Chemical Romance, Dashboard Confessional, Taking Back Sunday, Brand New, The Used, Saves the Day, Weezer. Yes, you'll even get Weezer for some reason. Thursday, and All American Rejects. Those are bands that I think most people who've heard of emo and have listened to at least a little bit of it, yes, those were the bands
except
that
for
had
Weezer.
success.
I haven't. I
That's an odd
taken
one.
exception for
Yeah.
Weezer. They almost are their own category by themselves at the time. They were.
You'll also
really
see
unique.
Jimmy Eat World. So Weezer and Jimmy Eat World to me are the most outside of emo.
But my list will be Dashboard Confessional and My Chemical Romance, and that's it. That's all you need to know about emo. Those two bands. The Dashboard was horrible, acoustic, dribble, drony, whiny ass music. My Chemical Romance was emo that you could listen to.
My Chemical Romance they wore their influences on their sleeves. So they started off kind of punk rock, but you could tell they were big Queen fans. They were into bands that did anthems.
Yeah, I mean,
rock bands,
absolute anthems, off the wall, progressive.
Good band.
Yeah.
I thought they were great. See, for me, Taking Back Sunday and Thursday, I always heard of those two bands
Sunday
together.
and Thursday. Take them both
Taking
back.
Sunday and Thursday. It was a big day type of band.
Sunny Day Real Estate.
Yeah. And then obviously, who we just mentioned, Jimmy Eat World, they also come up. The first time I heard of a band that was labeled as emo, where I realized it wasn't just punk, it was actually a thing called emo, is this band, the Get Up Kids. And I was in Clemson, South Carolina. I think I'd gone back. I think I was living in Atlanta, but I went back to Clemson for some reason, probably to hang out with some friends. And
College chicks.
Maybe. And I went back to my old haunt, which was called Manifest Music, and they would allow you to put on the headphones and listen to whatever you wanted to.
That's so
before
insanitary
you purchased.
these days.
I know. That wouldn't go over now. Yeah, so I listened to this band, the Get Up Kids, and it was labeled as emo, and I heard it and I thought, man, this is a great punk rock album. And this is a band from Kansas City, Missouri. A lot of emo bands are from the Midwest for some reason. And they were a pretty major band on the scene in the early 2000s. They were also one of the ones that were on Vagrant Records. And we'll talk about a couple of different labels that are indie labels that really facilitated a lot of these emo bands. So this band toured with Green Day and Weezer in their early years and were really a driving force in the emo world until they split up in 2005. And when they split up, they did so to focus on their side projects, one being a kind of a folky indie folk thing that I don't really listen to called The New Amsterdams, and the other one being kind of a novelty act called Reggie and the Full Effect, where they had this whole backstory that this was a band from the 80s whose tapes had been found, and they put out 2 albums, and it basically sounded like 80s music, but no, it was the Get Up Kids.
I give them credit for that.
Yeah, it had the novelty wears off.
Yeah,
you know, as you get through the first album, but it was still funny and cool and clever.
People that make up stories like that, you got to give them props.
Exactly. But I'm going to play from that album that I listened to in Manifest, which I did end up purchasing, and we're going to listen to a song called Forgive and Forget. This is off Eudora 2001, the Get Up Kids.
It kind of sounded familiar, but obviously I've never heard that song before. It's just that it sounded like a lot of pop punk that I would have heard back in the day that I like. It's just hard for me to imagine that was called emo. Once again, I wasn't tied into that scene or anything like that, but emo to me was always the droney, down-tempo songs. But the faster stuff just comes across as pop punk or, you know, a type of punk, and I like it. It's just, it's not the fingernails on a chalkboard emo that I think gets made fun of a lot.
Yeah, and I think we're going to find that as we go through this today. We're playing bands that were considered emo. And as you listen to this, keep thinking about that, because to me, like I said, if you didn't provide that label, I would just think it's kind of melodic punk rock.
Yeah.
Which is
Not
right in my wheelhouse. You know, I
Not
love
far
it.
from what we were. I mean, we
No,
were not punk,
no,
but we had
it's-
that up-tempo hard rock and sound that had a little bit of that to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's aggressive yet accessible and hooky.
Yeah, hooky,
right?
yes.
So let's talk about another one. This is a band that I discovered. Honestly, I believe I discovered them on. It was called Smart Punk. Do you remember that? It was a website called Smart Punk.
Oh, I thought this was another genre.
No,
I was
no,
like,
no.
I
It
definitely wasn't involved
I
in
think
anything
that's
that
what it
said
was called.
smart.
No, it was a place where you could go and you could sell merchandise and you could buy merchandise, but they also had albums and all sorts of things. Sort of like an Amazon, but just for punk rock.
I was pretty slow getting on the interwebs. I was a late bloomer internet-wise.
I think we sold some stuff. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, you would have been in charge of that, and that's why you know
would have
that.
been
You
me.
were head of our merchandise department.
This is true. But I believe that's where I heard of this band. And they're a band from Philly, formed in 99, called Breaking Pangaea. And I think I'm pronouncing that right.
It's called Breaking Benjamin.
No, it's definitely not them.
Oh, different band.
Breaking Pangaea. Pangaea.
Pangea.
We're going to go with that. Never really knew exactly how to say it, but that sounds good to me. And these were, most of these bands were just kids. You know, they were high school, college age bands that were out there doing this thing and playing with all these other bands. And they played with a lot of the other emo bands that you might know or might not know, but bands like Coheed and Cambria, we've talked about them before. Hey Mercedes, which is actually a band that we've played before as well on one of our wildcard episodes. And Hey Mercedes is actually one I considered to play today, but because we had already played them and because they are partly the guys from Braid, I decided not to. This band played with another band called Armor for Sleep, who we may or may not be visiting later, and a band called RX Bandits. So they toured with all these bands in their short time that they were together in the early 2000s. One album, 2 EPs, 2000 to 2003. I believe I heard of them on Smart Punk. I bought an album and just really, really dug it because they're kind of proggy, kind of noisy, in my wheelhouse. See what you think. This is Breaking Pangaea from their EP called Phoenix that came out in 2003. This is the last thing they put out, and this is called Worst Part.
Tell her everything, but then it was gone as soon as it came. How did it change? What did you see? And did I just get it wrong? 'Cause the worst part is having no
If you were to break that song down into its individual components, its musical molecules, there's nothing about any of those components that I hate. The drums, the bass, the guitar tone was fine. It's rocking out. It's heavy. The lyrics were hooky, everything, and you put it all together, and it just does nothing for me. It's not a bad song, and it's just, there's something about that type of song right there that just kind of blends into the background that I listen to it. Like I said, I don't hate it, but nothing about it grabs me. It's not edgy enough. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly why, but that genre, there's a few bands that will stand out that'll grab my attention that I like, but for the most part, this is why I never got into it, is, the whiny stuff, obviously, the drony, whiny, we can all make fun of that, but this stuff, it's like power pop punk type stuff that normally would be in my wheelhouse, but it all sounds very similar to the band you played before, and I'm betting a succession of bands after this, but it just, one reason, me personally, maybe I was a little older and out of the wheelhouse of their audience at the time, and especially now. So that might have something to do with it, that I couldn't really emote and empathize with the emotions that they were going through, because a lot of bands that were going through that emo, whiny, I'm depressed phase, that was one of the best times of my life. Good Lord have mercy. I was having a great time, happy as can be. I was in a rock band, playing music with my friends, getting drunk, traveling around, having a great time. So it was just something that I could wrap my brains around, being sad and depressed at that time of my life.
Right.
Other points in my life, yeah, but then I'm always going to associate that with some amazing times. So I'm definitely not their target audience.
So hearing it later, as we are now in 2021, does it still come across to you as being whiny, or is
no,
it just...
no, not whiny at all.
Okay.
Once again, the lyrics were, this particular song and the one you played before, not whiny. I mean, the lyrics may have
definitely emotional,
about but not whiny.
But, rock songs have always been about relationships,
that's what I wrote about. I mean, it was what is the easiest thing to write about, or very strong emotions. What are strong emotions? Anger, sadness. Love is kind of hard. It's a happy emotion. It's harder to write happy songs. It's easy to write sad and depressed songs. Man, that just comes out. It just flows. So I think it's just, I don't know what it is. There's my personal tastes gravitate towards extremes and edginess, and once again, Motorhead, just raw. Right. Fuck you, music, just all that kind of stuff. So I was probably never their target audience, and that's why still it doesn't really just grab me. I mean, we play music all the time on the show that I'm like, yes, hell yeah, it can be punk, even some of the old prog stuff. I get into that. You've introduced me to a lot of those bands, but this genre, it's just going to be one of those things that if it's on the radio, I will listen to this before a lot of other stuff. Any type of new metal, all that crap that I just roll my eyes at. I'll take this all day long.
I can't wait for our new metal episode.
We're going to have to do one. We talk so much about it. Maybe we find something that, I don't absolutely throw up over. Let's just try that.
Well, see, when I hear what we just heard, I totally, that's your opinion. I totally get where you're coming from.
This is what I do.
I think the fact that I started off when I was in the 7th, 8th grade listening to punk rock, and mainly it was hardcore back then, but, just me always gravitating towards punk, at least having that kind of as my starting point. Mm-hmm. When I hear this music, it definitely takes, a bit from that kind of college music, that alternative stuff that came out in the 90s, and it mixes with the punk rock stuff that I kind of grew up on. And then they even throw in some of the metal riffs and the heaviness of the guitars. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't hear, that production, just from a production value, the drums, the guitars sound so big in that song.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I said. The individual components sounded great.
But they have a lot of, and this is a lot of the emo thing, is they have a lot of start-stops, which is kind of proggy at the same time. So, you're firing on all cylinders with me. And then one of the main things, and maybe the reason, I don't know, we'll break it down as we get through it, but maybe one of the reasons is they have a lot of quiet to loud. And
whisper to scream.
And they bring it, whisper to scream kind of stuff, and they bring it down a lot. Not so much whisper to scream in the vocals, mainly in the instruments, right? Yeah. So a lot of clean guitar to really heavily distorted to back and forth. So I don't know if that might have something to do with it.
This is research.
This is research.
Very important research we're doing here tonight. The show is titled, Why Does Robert Hate Emo?
But see, I hear what we just heard and I totally dig it. And this is one of those bands that I just love. So all the bands I'm playing for today are ones that I really dig out of the genre. But hey, let's see what happens next. So I mentioned a band that they toured with called Armor for Sleep. So why don't we listen to Armor for Sleep? This is an emo band from New Jersey, formed in 2001. So they were formed right around the time this was becoming a thing. And they were signed very quickly to Equal Vision Records, which is another one of those labels that really focused on punk rock and emo back in the day. And I believe that label's still around. But they were a big indie player in this scene. And so they recorded 2 albums. I think they eventually had 3 full lengths, an EP, and they broke up in 2009. So they actually lasted a little bit longer than some of the other bands. A lot of these bands are kind of 4 or 5 years and they're done. This band, they eventually, after 2 albums, they signed for their 3rd one with Warner Brothers. So they were on Warner Brothers' Sire. In 2006, they actually got a song on a film that I've never seen, that I don't know why I've never seen it, because it sounds so bad that I need to see it.
Uh-oh.
Snakes on a Plane.
Oh,
Did you ever see
God.
Snakes on a Plane?
No. That
It looks so bad
10
that I
seconds
have to watch
into
it.
the promo, I knew this is not. But you know what? After the fact, now years later, maybe if we have like 3 car bombs before we watch it, that'll be funny.
They also had a song on Transformers, which is, 2 pretty big movies at the time. They had some forward momentum. Obviously, they signed with Warner Brothers, so they went to the major, but probably not a band that most people have heard of.
No.
So Armor for Sleep. I want to play the title song from the album that I first got into them on, which is an album called Dream to Make Believe.
It's funny how things work out. The ones we need don't know we're there. If I were sand and you were oceans, the moon would be wire pulled to me. I wake up and think dreams are real. I sleep so I don't have to feel the truth that you can never be. The one person that won't ever forget me. I hope that dreams come when I die, so we can talk. I will wake up. I'll ask you how your life worked out. I'll never know that I'm just dreaming. I wake up and think dreams are real. I sleep so I don't have to feel the truth that you can never be. The one person that won't ever forget me. Let me sleep some more. 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 Let me sleep some more.
Couldn't they put in a fade out? Wasn't even ready for that song to end.
It's over.
So, are you sure that wasn't the last band? Are you fucking with me?
I told
Are
you,
you
they
messing
all
with me
sing
here?
in that same kind of timbre, the voices.
You are
so-
not lying. You are absolutely correct. It's all 3 bands, I think, are the same band. So, early April Fool's on me. I'm going to look like a jackass. Thanks.
Nope, different band.
Oh, okay.
Armor for Sleep.
Yeah, I don't
Ditto?
know.
Is this a ditto?
Ditto. I'm trying to think of why, and there's a lot of
the
things
guitars
coming
are
back.
kick-ass.
Yeah, they are. Like I said, I am not disparaging hating the band or the music specifically for any reason. It's just some reason it doesn't resonate with me. And I'm thinking back to the time when this was out, and I do remember there are a lot of whiny ass songs. Even Blink 182 got off the rails and was. There's a lot of songs about parents breaking up and things like that I had no correlation to. I mean, I'm one of the probably few people that my parents stayed married until my dad passed away a few years ago, and so I just had nothing to really commiserate with them on that. And if your parents had split up when you were young, oh my God, you would dive right into that, and it was speaking to you directly. So I think part of it was a lot of that whininess and talking about emotions that I didn't really have any empathy towards, and so it just didn't resonate with me. Versus more of the rock songs talking about drinking and women and things like that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right in my wheelhouse. Yeah, that's fine.
And you've always been more of a vocals guy versus me. Like I can listen to a song 100 times and not tell you what they're singing about at all,
so
I'm listening
because
to the music.
I write lyrics. You have to, but sung the vocals are part of it. That it just doesn't resonate with me. So it's not that I hate the music. Like you play Jimmy Eat World, that resonates with me because it's more of a positive, upbeat song, and we did try to do that. For the most part, our songs that you and I played together were not down in the dumps, woe is me. No. They were funny songs, and true stories. Me being an idiot, and I would get a song out of it. There was a couple of we had our big power ballad that was kind of a sad song, but not completely. So yeah, I think that it's just my style is when I play music is I want to rock out, but at the same time, I don't want to depress people. I want to entertain them and make them leave happier than they showed up to our show. And it still lingers to this day when I listen to that music.
Versus a lot of this, which is probably in that dwell in our angst and our misery.
Yeah, commiserate with me because I've been through the same thing that you've been through. Yeah. And I just if that's what everybody was doing at the time, I went the other direction to try to be different. And it was, like I said, it's not easy to write happy music. I give Jimmy Eat World a lot of credit because I know it's hard. It doesn't flow out of you emotionally like sadness, angst, depression, all that really just writes itself.
Anger is super easy.
Anger, God, that's the easiest thing to write about.
Well, let's try something else here. Let's do a band. So we've done some bands from up north and in the Midwest. Let's try a band from, of all places, Auburn, Alabama.
What?
An emo band from Auburn,
What
Alabama.
do you have to be upset about growing up in Auburn, Alabama? There's nothing there to get upset about.
Originally, this band was called Antidote, and they moved in 98. So they formed in 97 in Alabama, and they moved to Connecticut in 98, which, again, that's a weird thing.
I can see moving to Atlanta. That's 2 hours away.
Well, I'm assuming it was cheaper than moving to New York City. So I'm assuming that's why they did that.
Yeah, maybe real estate's a little less.
Maybe.
I've checked Zillow.
But they changed their name to Hot Rod Circuit, and that's the band we're going to talk about. And they were on Triple Crown Records early on, and that's another punk label that a lot of groups have been on, and another purveyor of emo as well. They've played shows in New England with the Get Up Kids, who we talked about, and another band that we haven't talked about, which I'm surprised didn't come up maybe number 5 on the Google search, which is a band called At the Drive-In.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Great band from El Paso, Texas. But they played shows with them. So if you're playing with At the Drive-In, you're playing with the Get Up Kids, you're probably going to be pretty decent. This band was courted by Drive-Thru Records and MCA, but they actually ended up on Vagrant, which is the label that Get Up Kids were on that I was talking about back in 2001. And they they did the Vagrant tour. So they toured extensively with your good buddies Dashboard Confessional, Saves the Day. Another one we haven't mentioned, which I'm surprised hasn't come up, is Newfound Glory and Good Charlotte.
Oh, God.
So those are two bands that I absolutely can't stand.
God, Good Charlotte. That evokes a lot of angry, emo emotions for me.
Yeah, so those are I think some of the ones that Newfound Glory and Good Charlotte that people also think of with emo, and I was never really into those bands.
But was one that did Stacy's Mom or something like that?
No, Stacy's Mom was not them. That was
what was the Good Charlotte song that I really hated?
I don't know. I've repressed all those.
Thank
memories.
God. Yeah, that was early 2000s, wasn't it?
Stacy's Mom. Damn, that's gonna kill me now. We'll have to Google it.
Somebody call us. Call my phone.
Somebody's screaming right now. They're screaming at their phone. You dumbasses. It's, Anyway. I don't know. It's not coming to me. But anyway, we're talking about Hot Rod Circuit. So let's see if we can turn it around. Let's see if we can turn Robert into an emo lover here. This band released 6 full-length albums from 98 to 07. They've reunited a couple times, but formally disbanded in 07. So I'm going to play from their 2002 record called Sorry About Tomorrow. This is a song called Now or Never.
To the boy with the short attention span, the classes that they put him in, knows just where he stands. To the girl who lost it all that night, said she tried with all her might to run as fast as you can. To the boy with a short attention span, the classes that they put him in, knows just where he stands. To the girl who lost it all that night, said she tried with all her might to run as fast as you can. It's now or never, you got me running around again. Did you make a conscious effort? You got me falling apart, falling apart. It's now or never, you got me running around again. Did you make a conscious effort? You got me falling apart, falling apart. To the boy with the short attention span, the classes that they put him in, knows just where he stands. To the drugs that compensate for brains, you'll never hear them complain. They're too fucked up to understand decisions made. It's now or never, you got me running around again. Did you make a conscious effort? You got me falling apart, falling apart. It's now or never, you got me running around again. Did you make a conscious effort? You got me falling apart, falling apart. It's now or never, you got me running around again. Did you make a conscious effort? You got me falling apart, falling apart. It's now or never, you got me running around again. Did you make a conscious effort? You got me falling apart, falling apart.
Are you wearing guy liner?
I need to be. This is getting weird. Okay, so last week I was working on some electronics and I was in the one room in my house that actually has a TV and I wanted something in the background, so I kicked the TV on. I was going to just play some music and somehow I ended up watching A Clockwork Orange. When was the last time you saw that movie?
It's been a couple of years, but I used to watch it religiously in high school.
Okay, so the older we get, the more incredibly awful that movie gets to today's standards. So anyway, it's just on in the background. I'm glancing at it, but the scenes of him being forced to watch these horrible images. And so first of all, I'm getting the feeling that that's going on right now. But
let me put some drops in your eyes.
Put some drops. That's why you mentioned guy liner. But it's also like a therapy session in the sense that it's bringing back memories. So you mentioned Good Charlotte, and just that name evokes negative emotions with me, and I'm starting to understand now why I'm hesitant to like this music is because back in the day I was listening to this stuff and I wasn't thinking of it as emo music. Once again, Dashboard Confessional, the acoustic, drony, whiny stuff. Yeah, I would think that. But I was thinking of this type of music is more just pop punk. And Blink-182 was huge, but it was kind of going off the rails with all these other pop punk wannabe bands that I thought it was kind of way over the top. I'm like, this has jumped the shark. And I hated it because of it wasn't punk rock. It was too whiny to be punk rock. It was too... Anyway, it was just sellout punk rock music. So I think back then I developed a hatred for it because I'm thinking of punk rock and how this was not punk rock. And instead of looking at this, no, this is a separate genre of music. When I heard Good Charlotte, I wanted to break stuff. It was so bad.
They were fake.
Yeah, exactly.
But people did put them in the emo category because of the way they dressed.
And it ruined probably a lot of the other emo because I lumped it all together as that same whiny ass punk that's just beyond. I was over it as an adult. I couldn't empathize with any of it. It wasn't what punk rock was about to me. And so because I miscategorized it, that I think that has led to a lot of negative emotions. So getting back to that specific band, once again, just good rockin' song. It started off a little bit better than the other songs, a little stronger with his vocals. Then it kind of went right into that same wheelhouse, very tight, narrow channel of how the songs were written and performed, real similar together. So I'm glad it was a very short-lived genre because the songs were just way too similar for me.
Okay. Did you like at least the middle eight, the bridge section?
Yeah. Like,
it had that kind of weird proggy.
It's a little bit better. Yeah, that was a little bit better than the first.
All right. Well, let's see if we can kick all this stuff in the nuts. So we're gonna go.
I don't want to be kicked in the nuts.
Yeah, we're gonna kick all these bands in the nuts because we're gonna talk about a post-hardcore band that I would not have lumped into this genre, but we've already mentioned their name. They're from El Paso, Texas. I'm talking about At the Drive-In. And when I got their kind of major breakthrough album, The Relationship of Command in the year 2000, I wasn't thinking emo. This was just a kick-ass hardcore punk band to me who happened to be on kind of a mainstream stage for a bit. But they've been lumped into the emo category, so what the hell? We're going to play them. They're not the most obscure band in the world. A lot of people have heard of At the Drive-In, but I want to play it.
It's our show.
Yeah, so we're going to play it. They released 4 full-length albums and 6 EPs from 94 all the way to 2017, but there was a big gap in between there where they split up into different bands. And a lot of people probably know the bands that they split up into more so than this band even, because one of those bands is a band called the Mars Volta. And they were like a punk, progressive rock, just juggernauts in the 2000s. So At the Drive-In, after their 2000 album came out, they split up into Mars Volta, and the other band was Sparta. And Sparta was kick-ass as well. They didn't do quite as well as Mars Volta did, but eventually they all got back together and did At the Drive-In. And Jeremy and I went to see them when they released their new album and went on tour in 2017. They were amazing. Love this band. The Relationship of Command, which is the album I'm going to play from, was actually released on the Beastie Boys record label called Grand Royal. So just to throw another weirdness into it. So they had mainstream success with this album. It was on the Beastie Boys label, and this album has been voted, especially in the UK press, as one of the ultimate albums from the 2000s. I think in the NME, which is the New Music Express, 37th, I think 37 out of 100 or something like that for the 2000s. So very influential album and just very influential band on emo and all things punk and proggy that have gone on since. So I'm going to play a song, the first song that I ever heard, which is called Pattern Against User.
To the block pit, hypodermic people don't get one out the limit. They take a way out of this, it takes a way out of living. Are we just infants for the right for the training? The opposition can't feel the tentacle reach suction, cause the numb arms of the L clock keeps ticking away, will time be hesitating? Will all the minutes that were taken away, will you watch me waiting? Sam falls through time portals, these landfills, we mortals. And if this clock keeps beating down, let the random time keep playing. Of all the minutes that were taken away, will you watch me waiting? Bastard waiting for nothing. The circus counting garden, the gates of heaven, back stuck in limbo abduction. Worm our way through destiny. Worm our way through destiny. Wormed our way through distant earth. Wormed our way through distant earth.
Guess what?
What?
I like that.
Oh my God, I knew it.
And I guess the key difference is the vocals on that one. It started off sounding very Zach.
De La Rocca?
Yeah, De La Rocha, Rocca, whatever. I knew it wasn't Rocha. Anyway, yeah, it sounded very much like that. I'm like, okay, there's that edginess and I needed. I totally know the Heimlich if you get it caught.
Going down.
I thought you just choked, but yeah, you sucked up the tea bag.
Oh shit.
Anyway. So yeah, it was more ragey against the machine-ish, and I like that. So yeah, I think there's a few little things here or there that make it stand out for me. So it's not I hate all emo music. Once again, there was just some of that in that middle ground that just blends in. I don't hate it, but it's just it doesn't do anything for me.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I thought that would give it a little kick in the nuts, at least. So, okay. Well, let's see if we can continue this trend. And we're on the upper trend now. Let's see if we can get there. The next band I'm going to talk about is a band from Chicago, formed in '98, and they were named after the London area where Jack the Ripper operated.
Oh, nice. Such a pleasant part of
Yeah,
town.
well, you know, if you're going to name your band, you got to pick
Ripperville?
something good. No, they're called Spitalfield. So, yeah. So that's what I
That
always thought it
field
was.
over there, that's where you spit, not
That's-
on the street.
I always thought Spitalfield was basically just projectile spitting, but no, apparently this is a place or an area of London. So,
Yeah. I'm not going there.
but they're from Chicago, and they released 4 albums from 2001 to 2006, right in the sweet spot of emo. So let's see. They're on Victory Records. Check. They were around from 2001 to 2006. Check. They're checking all the emo boxes here. They toured with Sugar Cult Thursday, early November, and they did a lot of stints on the Warp Tour. So check. So they're checking all the boxes for emo, and I think they kick ass. So let's see what you think. I'm going to play a song from 2003 from their album called Remember right here. The song is called Those Days You Felt Alive.
Remember
I need some more eye drops.
You're right back where you were?
Yeah, at a positive note on the last one, and then they got back to the same thing for me. Yeah,
It's a whammy.
God, yeah. I mean, I usually don't have this many duds on a podcast. Usually, it's, every fifth or sixth song I may go, But I think just this whole genre is dangerous for me.
It's just not your thing.
It's just not my thing. Like I said, you can pick a few bands out of it that I like, but for the most part, this whole I didn't realize it. I never could have told you I hated emo music. Not hate. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's just
dislike.
Dislike? No, it's not even dislike. I'm ambivalent. I'm very ambivalent to emo. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do anything for me. And like I said, if you were to sing
that
just
bass guitar
isolate,
tone alone for me was just
exactly.
Like,
if you were to isolate
sweet.
isolate the guitar, I'm like, damn, that's a rocking guitar sound. But the vocals, I think, are the one thing that
That's
just
what kills it
kind
for you.
of takes the edge off of it.
Okay. All right. Well,
But the listeners may have a different opinion, and we're here for the listeners, not me. This is not.
I have a feeling that the
make
listeners
Robert
are
happy.
I think the listeners are probably going to align with you,
Well,
and I
we'll
will
see.
go ahead and say that this is going to be our lowest number of downloads in a long
Maybe
time.
we should call it something else besides emo, and then they won't know until they download it.
No. Let's see what happens. Like I said, these are songs that I all own. Everything that I play on the show, I own. And I mean, I was thinking two things as we were listening to that. I was thinking, yeah, Robert's not going to like this one again. And number two is this reminds me of back when I used to live on Church Street in that town.
Oh, yeah, the town. I remember that.
And we had that amazing Olympic-sized swimming pool, and I would take these are the bands that I was listening to at the time on it was just pre-iPod. Yeah. So I was listening on like
a Walkman or boombox.
Walkman. Yeah, a Discman.
Discman, yeah, that's right. You had a
disc
Discman.
player. So I would sit down at the pool, and I remember listening to that song, and that just took me right back to just chilling out.
But see, you have positive associations with it.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Okay. Well, we may
I remember
as well
staying up late helping you renovate that place when you moved in, painting and doing flooring. Yeah. We had some good times drinking beer and renovating.
Absolutely. Somebody's giving me a call, and I don't know who it is. Screw off. I'm on a podcast. What's wrong with you?
Don't you know?
All right, so we might as well end on a down note for you because I'm pretty certain you're going to hate this next band, and this is the last song we're going to play. This is a very poppy emo band, so I'm assured you're going to really hate this.
Because I thought that was what you just played.
No. This is the poppier band, and this is a band that had some pretty big success, although I don't think they were ever a household name, but I actually saw this band live. They were great. The band's called The Starting Line, and they're another band from Philadelphia, and they were signed to Drive-Thru Records, which is, again, one of these other ones. And Drive-Thru Records focused mainly on kind of the power poppy, pop punk crossover to emo kind of band. So there are a lot of pop bands on Drive-Thru Records. And Drive-Thru Records is the label that I sent, the last things that we did with Big Jack Pneumatic, I sent a whole press kit to them.
Oh, yeah?
And they actually responded. And they said, basically, this sounds great if you guys are ever in California. if you're performing a show in California, let us know and we'll come down and see the show.
Almost as good as Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're ever in Canada or California, same distance from Atlanta.
So they had actually at least listened to our music and would consider at least coming out to see us.
They liked us, but not enough to buy a plane ticket.
But anyway, I'm going to play from one of their drive-through releases. Now, they eventually were signed to Geffen in 2004. They went on tour with Fall Out Boy, so they did have some success. And then even further after that, they signed to Virgin Records and put out an album, I believe. And they toured with every emo band you can throw out. I mean, the list is like 20 bands long. Now, some that we didn't name that were also in that world. So we did mention Good Charlotte. They toured with them. How about, do you remember the Ataris?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so they toured with them. Midtown was another one.
No.
Remember Midtown? No. Sum 41.
Yeah. And we like them.
Yeah, we like them. No Use for a Name. You remember that band?
I remember the name, No Use for a Name.
Now, here's another
Couldn't
one.
tell you what they played.
Here's another one that I never liked, but they were very big. Yellow Card.
Yeah, that was another one.
And they had a violinist in
Yeah.
the band, if I remember correctly. But that was
And
another one I never got into.
One hit.
So they released 3 full lengths from 2002 to 2007. Again, I'm going to play from Say It Like You Mean It, which came out in 2002 on Drive-Thru Records. Let's leave you with this, Robert. You go ahead and just get your guy liner on, put your skinny jeans on, and enjoy.
Without my life. Please don't leave me without saying goodbye. Without saying goodbye. Please don't leave me without saying goodbye. Without saying goodbye. Please don't leave me without saying goodbye. Without saying goodbye. Please don't leave me without saying goodbye. Without saying goodbye. Let's travel back in time.
He loves it.
I'm less ambivalent about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was higher on the scale of almost liking it.
Has some hooks.
Yeah, it had definitely. It was a little heavier, almost a little more Sum 41-ish.
Definitely
And
more
so
pop punky.
Pop
than
punk was
emo.
fine. Is when it got into the emo, it just kind of slides off the rails for me.
All right.
So I love Sum 41. That was a great show. God, they love the classics. They throw in so many
fit in their little metal bits.
metal
here and there. I
bits,
love
and
it.
they're amazing musicians and very athletic on stage. Even after all these years, I was very impressed with that. They're still in good shape. So anyway, I can't say anything really bad about the songs today, but I can't say a lot of good. So sorry.
That's fine. Oh man, I had one more I was going to throw your way, but I'm not going to play it. And do you know why?
Why?
Because
Not because of my feelings.
no, not because of your feelings, but because it is probably the most emo of emo songs that I had in the list. And one of the things that emo bands did that we didn't explore that much today is they had really long song titles. And I was going to play a song by a Canadian band called Monine. And here is the song title. I just got to read you the song title.
It'll take 2 minutes.
The frightening reality of the fact that we will all have to grow up and settle down one day.
I don't know whose reality he's living in. It's not my
That's
reality.
the name of the song.
I have not had to grow up. I'm sorry, what? Is this a thing? People grow up and get jobs and settle down and have families?
I think it's funny because a lot of the emo bands, they had really long song titles. And if you remember, the grunge bands, they had the opposite. A lot of the grunge bands, it was a single word. So like the first Pearl Jam and Nirvana, a lot of those albums only had one word titles.
We're so cool. We don't have to talk.
And then the emo bands took it the extreme other way, where I'm going to write a novel as the song
Well, with
title.
grunge, if you don't understand it in one word, you don't need to be listening to our music. Versus the emo bands, let me tell you every single thing that I'm feeling right now in this song title.
Yeah,
you don't have to listen to the song; you know what it's about.
Let me just lay on your couch.
Yeah. Love me. Listen to me whine.
Well, I'm really upset. I just got to tell you how I feel. I'm really upset. I don't know
How
really
do
how
you
to
feel?
process my feelings right now that you did not like what we played today. But I'll probably get over it. I do.
I'll come back next week for another episode. How's that?
Well, hopefully there's no razor blades in this room because I don't want to start doing things to myself.
Let me go
I'll
look for sharp
regret.
objects. The windows are hard to open anyway, so you can't jump out the window.
We had to go here eventually.
Yeah,
so
no, we did. And now it's an education for people that maybe didn't live through that or in another country didn't get to experience that firsthand. Now you know what we had to listen to and suffer through.
And I liked it. But by the time we get to Volume 5, Robert, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. And with that, we will see you for another round of emo next week. Later.
Later. Good Lord.
Suck the tea bag up.
You're there teabagging. We're trying to have a podcast. And you're teabagging over there. Damn it.